Greetings, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers. Welcome back to another episode of Treknicity, the podcast show where two guys talk about Star Trek and what a ride. I'm Lars.
I'm Brandon.
And we're going to catch up. This is going to be like a jam-packed episode because we are going to cover the last 3 episodes of Picard Season 2 because I had to take vacation right in the middle of our 4th season, and as a result, I had to. And as a result, we kind of got some episodes piled up on top of us. But anyways, we are going to get right to the rat killing. We're going to talk about episodes 8, 9, and 10, which, I mean, holy crap. I'm just going to give you guys fair warning right now. We are going to spoiler the crap out of this. We are leave no stone unturned, and we're going to talk about my favorite part of the entire 2nd season. So we'll get to that here in just a moment. However,
to hear that.
In the interest of fostering wonderful relationships with other podcasts, we are going to start doing some promo spots and some cross promotion with other podcasts. And this week is the first, and I'm going to get right to it. I'm going to go ahead and let's just cut it right over. So let's hit it. Do you like reading comic books? Are you a comic book artist or writer? Do you love discussing comic book movies and TV shows? Then the Irreverent Nerd Podcast might be for you. Join co-hosts Richard and Will every Wednesday as they discuss these topics and more. You can also follow them on Instagram at irreverent_nerd. That's at IRREVERENT_nerd. See you around the Nerdverse, fellow humans. Yay! I did it!
I answered yes to all your questions. What do I get?
You get to watch another podcast.
Yay!
However, I have watched their show, and they are really kind of getting into their groove. You know, it reminds me a lot of when I first got into podcasting back when Patrick and I, before the Red Shirt Geeks was even a thing, we had a show called 3x2, which, you know, is definitely not kid friendly, but hey, it was fun. And we kind of got down, we started off in the audio format solely. Then I decided I wanted to go the video route, and we started down that, and he and I were living closer together. You know, we were in the same town, so we were able to get together a couple times a week and record stuff, so it worked out pretty well. But, so yeah, anyways, if you definitely like nerd stuff, go check out the Irreverent Nerd podcast, and again, check them out on Instagram. I am going to throw that up one more time for us, folks. Oh, there you go. So, it's the Irreverent Nerd, at irreverent_nerd. And here we go. Okay. So, again, as I said, I went out on vacation, so we kind of had to do, we had like basically skip over a couple weeks because I was on a plane or I was someplace where I couldn't do a show. And being back into it, like I managed to watch. I'm down the I did manage to get one episode of Picard watched while I was away. That was episode 8, which I believe was entitled Mercy. And I was like, okay. I was starting to get, you know, I think I had mentioned before that I was starting to get a little worried that they were losing steam or they were getting toward the business end of the season.
Not be able to answer all the questions.
Yeah, we're going to be able to wrap these things up. However, thankfully, that was not a problem. It might have been a little bit rushed to get to the end, but whatever.
Yeah, but it wasn't too bad. It was no Game of Thrones, that's for sure.
Definitely. I will say they did not sacrifice the quality of the overall story to get it wrapped up at the end.
Yeah.
So let's start with episode 8, which was Mercy. At the end of the previous episode, the FBI had arrested Jean-Luc and Guinan, and had taken him off to who knows where.
FBI land.
That's right. So when we pick the story back up in episode 8, they are in FBI custody. They're in some dank room in the basement of some long forgotten building. Yada yada. You know that old cliche. And the guy is trying to prove that they're extraterrestrials by asking leading questions. Now, it's worth mentioning that in the cold open for this episode, we see a young boy running through the forest, running from someone or something, and we find out that a young boy has accidentally come across a couple of Vulcans. And
oh snap!
Yeah,
change in the timeline.
Yeah,
right in history.
Not
really though.
I kind of wondered if they were kind of doing the whole Carbon Creek thing. You know, do you remember did you watch Enterprise?
Yeah.
Okay, so you remember?
I don't remember that.
Carbon Creek was the episode where I want to say it was in the second season where they talk about T'Pol shares a story with Trip and Archer about the first contact between humans and Vulcans, and they're like, oh, that happened, April 5th, 2063 in Bozeman, Montana. And she's like, actually, it happened, like over 100 years earlier. And then she tells the story of Carbon Creek, Pennsylvania, where these Vulcans who were on a survey mission crashed their ship and then end up having to blend in order to survive.
Maybe that was it.
Yeah, I won't go into the whole thing because we really don't have all that time to do it. However, kind of a similar thing. Again, it gave me that vibe. I wonder if it's like a, is this a, Carbon Creek situation or what is it?
It makes sense that they would have done surveys anyways of Earth.
Right. And I mean, Earth was primitive enough for them to observe, but they had no idea that, within 100 years or 100 so years that Earth was going to develop warp drive, which then fuels first contact, and we all know that chestnut. But what's really cool is you're like, oh, okay, so what is this? And then they come back, they talk about it, they tell the story. The FBI agent tries to grill Picard and Guinan. They laugh it off. They have this playful
Alien
banner.
Says what?
Yeah. He's like, what? I got you. But what's really cool is they do kind of pick up other pieces of the story. We have because remember we have from the last episode we have now basically now as we're calling her Borgatti running around Los Angeles in a red evening gown and combat boots. She is basically
wreaking all kinds of havoc.
Yeah, she's got a clipboard because she's kicking ass and taking names. The cool thing about it is they kind of really delve a little bit more into, I guess, the lore or the deep dive on the Borg on how they kind of work things. And you have that moment where 7 of 9 remembers being assimilated at the age of 6, and they're talking about what's in these, what are in these batteries and stuff like that, because they find a dead dude, they find a busted cell phone, they find Borgatti apparently ripping open cars and eating batteries.
Lithium ions.
And they're like, oh, what's lithium ion? It's a stabilizing metal. And then basically 7 of 9 has her Vietnam style flashback and talks about, I can still smell I can still taste the metal because it helps with the assimilation process, which is kind of cool. So, they kind of set it up for later on into the next episode where they talk about, this kind of stuff is imperfect. They're imperfect metals, which means any assimilations are going to be imperfect, which means we're not going to have full-on Borg drones walking around Earth, in the 21st century. We're going to get something akin to it. So again, one thing, and like I've seen massive praise for this season, and I've seen, criticisms of the series of this season, much like I criticized the first season. And I actually thought that was a little unfair. I get it. I get where people coming from, and it is hard. It is hard to watch 80-something-year-old Sir Patrick Stewart do the Picard thing on screen, and you're like, he just doesn't have the oomph, the chutzpah anymore. He doesn't have that moxie. And you're almost like he's walking around like you expect him to hold out a bowl and say, "Please, sir, I'd like some more, sir."
He doesn't have the Dick Dixon in him anymore.
Yeah, he's that real spite, and it's tough. So I get where people are coming from. But Sir Patrick Stewart is such a classic actor, a wonderful performer, very cultured, very educated, member of the Royal Shakespeare Company, and you know that he's still kicking it. And all right, man, I guess as much as whether I like it or not, it's gonna rock and roll. He's gonna do the best he can, and it's gonna be a pretty good effort. Some
it's
moments
still better than the first season. So
yeah, some moments are like yeah. And other moments are like, okay, we're moving. The story's still moving along, so we'll give it a.
But I think there's more. Yeah, let's keep going. Moments more than the hurry up.
So what did you think of them kind of splitting these groups up? So you've got basically Picard and Talon / Guinan. You've got obviously you've got Raffi and Seven. Then you've got Rios and
the Doctor.
The Doctor, yeah, I can't remember her name again. I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm great with names, and sometimes I'm not.
I don't remember either.
And then there is, I guess, we call her Borgatti. So there is that dichotomy of the Borg Queen and Jurati kind of fighting it out into one body.
No, it was like the couples episode. It kind of was, yeah. It was like Picard and Guinan, and then 7 and 9, and Raffi and Rios and the Doctor. It was just pushing along the story, just of the couples basically getting to know each other a little bit better, moving, I guess, just character development. It was a little boring this episode.
It was a little
in general, I think.
I want to say I found it neutral. I didn't find it bad, but I didn't find it great. It was just like, okay. It sort of was a good bridge to get us to the end of it because episode 9, and I know we're going to gloss over quite a bit. So if you want to know more about exactly what happens, please watch the episodes because they are worth watching.
For sure.
But we move into just to wrap up kind of the recap
FBI
of
agent.
The FBI agent. We find out he is the boy at the beginning in the cold opener where it's he who finds the Vulcans, and then we find out that they mind melded with him trying to erase his memory. It didn't quite work.
Failed.
And he's like, okay, well, I guess whatever. And then Guinan's like, hey.
He thought they were doing something sinister. Turned out it wasn't.
Yeah, but the thing is that
set him straight.
Yeah, and Guinan kind of really got him thinking like, "Hey, you had to go through that as a kid, so you can be here to help us." And he's like, "Yep, there you go, out you go," and out the door they go.
He helps them, lets them go.
Right. There is the Sung / Q / Corey kind of element as well. We do find out that Corey has discovered the duplicity of her father, of Adam Sung, and the fact that he had cloned or had basically grown daughters that were clones of each other, and none of them lasted past their 6th birthday until Corey. And that's when he started to feel like he was going to make some progress. But of course, she was horrified that he would do it in the first place and not tell her. And it's like, okay, cool. It is what it is. And so she sets off to basically to go and figure out things and sort stuff out. Q wants, it seems like Q wants Sung to stop the
Launch.
the launch and everything of the Europa mission. But we find out that realistically, there's a much deeper lean on this entire story, and Q really isn't trying to do what the things you think he's trying to do.
Nobody knows that yet, though.
Oh, we're gonna tell him now. Um, the one thing that is brought to our attention is when Picard and Guinan are split up. We find out that Q had actually been summoned by Guinan through the ritual right before the end of the last episode, but he took him a while to get there because he doesn't have his powers, so he couldn't just flash
He's
there.
losing his powers.
Yeah, because he's dying, essentially, and that's where it starts to get a really, really kind of meaty and kind of deep for me. Because we know that we figured John Delancey, he's going to come back. They're going to do a season with him, and that's going to be it for him. That's usually that's the thing is when they bring you back for a season, it's usually to kill off your character. And that's fine.
Like they did with Han Solo. For one episode, one movie.
Let's bring him back just to kill him. What? You want a what?
He's like, finally, been wanting this since Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, can somebody just turn Han Solo into a whistle? You got it. So, the thing is, you've got this whole thing where, you have this deep story that's going on with Q, and you wonder kind of what he's getting at the whole thing. And we do find out, we kind of get that out. We get that, the whole thing during episode 10 when we find out what this was all in aid of.
The final 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we find out.
Yeah, they just jam-packed the business end of the season in the last 10 or 15 minutes. And I remember you and I were we were actually at our friend Andre's place watching the last couple of episodes of Picard and the first episode of Strange New Worlds, together with him and another friend. And the last 10 minutes or so, I was like, thoroughly surprised in very pleasant ways. So we roll on to episode 9. Episode 9 is kind of where they get to the really down to the rat killing of the season, where we see the standoff between Sung and the Borgati's now pseudo drones, and we also see what happens with the Europa mission and how everybody kind of comes together and sews it all up together. We do get everything but absolute final resolution of the storylines in episode 9. Basically every piece that needed to be addressed gets addressed except for if and how they get home. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So we pick it back up, Picard and Talon hook back up with Rafi and Seven and Rios and
everyone's back together.
The gang is back together. They're all back at Chateau Picard. They know that Borgatti is on her way. She's bringing drones with them. She's trying to stop the future from happening. Which again, there's a lot of assumptions made based on certain actions of certain characters throughout the season, but I can safely say that none of them acted or went after what we thought they were going after. Except with the exception of Rafi. She was pissed off because Eleanor got turned into a whistle. But that being said, they all end up back at Chateau Picard. They have a big shootout. Rios and Doctor and Ricardo end up going back to Talon's apartment in L.A. and then they have this big shootout. They talk about Picard starts to piece together his memories.
This was the big memory episode where
Right.
plays back all his memories with his mom and dad and
Right. And
what
if
happened to his mom.
we knew already that his mother had been suffering from some form of mental illness, but we
Yeah.
didn't really kind of know what or how it was affecting her or what the ultimate end result of that was until this episode. And we know that in the end, um, his mother was, or his father basically tried to lock his mother away to protect her, and to protect Jean-Luc as well. And he listened to his mother's cries for help, and he lets her out of her locked room,
Lets her loose.
and we find out in the end that she commits suicide. She hangs herself in the observatory,
With the rope.
oh yeah, the conservatory with a rope.
Conservatory with
Yeah.
the rope.
What is this? What is this? Star Trek Clue? Oh,
And
Clue
it's
Trek.
all because of him.
Yep, he let
He's
her
had
out,
this guilt for 90, 80 something years.
and that's crazy because you think about Picard and how he's progressed because remember in Generations he lost his brother, he lost his sister-in-law, he lost his nephew, and so he was the sole
lineage.
surviving Picard. And then now they kind of beefed out the story a little bit more, and we find out that his mother killed herself. Basically that kind of lends to the whole. He felt like the weight of the family was on the family's legacy was on his shoulders.
Maybe that explains better his relationship with his brother and why his brother's always so mad with him. Maybe his brother a little bit blames him for the death of their mom.
Yeah, Robert could have been very salty with him over that. And so this is a very deep episode. We see Rios and the Doctor getting much closer, and we know that in the end they're going to end up together because it's just going to happen.
Do?
Dun, dun, dun.
I did not see that coming. Not even from the second episode.
Yeah, and
oh God, when I saw him in that I think it was like the second episode when he goes and he's like, I need to go back and save her. And I was like, oh God, he's
here we
staying
go.
in this time period.
like,
He's gonna fall in love with her.
Episode 2, the hopes of a Captain Rios series are dashed.
Oh no, I don't want to see him in it.
So yeah, I mean,
I like him as a side character.
yeah, but he
He's
was
no Anson Mount.
he was
no
the
Anson
dark
Mount.
horse. He was very much the dark horse this season, I think.
Yeah.
You didn't expect him to be as good as he was.
Yes, that's true. I did enjoy him in every scene. He was great.
Yeah, the whole thing is that my one character that I did not really latch on to this season was Girardi, and because I felt like they were just throwing her into whatever just to do something with her. And that's the hard part because Alison Pill is a fantastic actress. So
Yeah,
it's
she's
like
amazing.
come on, man, do something. And then they kind of got the whole Borgatti thing going on. I'm like, all right, we'll let it slide. And we all knew that. And this is a next episode spoiler. But we all knew in the very beginning, like when she started futzing around with the Queen after the Queen and she joined, we knew that the Borg Queen that was there at the beginning of the season that ended up on the bridge of the Stargazer had to be Borgatti. And yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, cool. They did something with her. They found a way. Well, they knew a way, I guess, because it's all planned out.
Yeah.
But they found a good side hustle for her. Because otherwise, I don't think she really had much to go with the entire season. Like, really,
Well, yeah,
it was like
in the first few episodes, she was more comedy. She was the
comic relief.
She was there for the comic relief, yeah.
Yeah.
Because everything she was saying was so funny.
So basically, they kind of have this big battle, big fight.
Wasn't episode 9? We also get it wraps up the story with Soon's daughter.
Yes. Well,
Right.
I think
Or was that in 10?
I think, well, yeah, 10 is where the final resolution for their storyline appears.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's when we meet the secret guest.
Right. So we go through this, we get to the end of it, like that, this big shootout, this big fight.
Shootout.
On the ship, Borgatti gets onto the ship. She's trying to take control of it. They activate the emergency combat hologram.
The EMH, the combat EMH.
Yeah, which was, I guess, Eleanor. So we get to see Eleanor back from the dead, so to speak, running around with a mobile emitter on his arm, doing the whole EMH thing from Voyager. And he's kicking butt with these pseudo drones and everything. And in the end, 7 of 9 is mortally wounded. The Queen sticks her with something, and hits her with one of her Doc Ock's arms, and then basically she's bleeding out, dying. Long story short, Rafi cuts a deal with the Borg Queen. She fixes up 7, she heals her, and they give her the ship in return. So that
was also when Jurati convinces the Borg Queen to change and morph into something else.
Right, and we see a fundamental change.
Yeah.
In the Borg. The Borg have always been this super scary thing ever since the season 2 episode where they make their appearance. And now it's kind of a different thing. Like Jurati is guiding the Queen in a different direction, and the Queen acquiesces to Jurati's idea. So they figure they're going to take off for the Wild Blue Yonder, and they take off with the La Serena after they drop off everybody at Chateau Picard. The other thing is that there is they go to get Sung and to stop him from doing whatever he's going to do to try to stop the Europa mission launch. And they get there and they find out that he pulled a Wild Stallions on them by having a pre-recorded piece of audio sitting there playing for them to walk around the corner and run into. And of course they try the whole thing. Let's just try to stop the launch of the drones. They're going to stop the launch of the rocket. Oh, we can't. He's too smart for us. Oh, look, he's done all these things to make it so we can't stop it. Oh, wait, we did.
Give me some scissors, a pair of pliers, a tweezers, and some tinfoil.
Yeah, and some chewing gum.
And that was Rafi.
Yeah, Rafi totally MacGyvered the shit out of that thing.
She does is open the panel with the knife. She pops it open. Oh, I can't do anything with this. He thought of everything.
Yeah, like and then she's like, "Oh, wait a minute. No, he didn't. I've thought of everything. Ha ha ha." And she hacks into one of the drones and then basically Rios gets in control of one of the drones, and you start hearing Highway to the Danger Zone playing, and he ends up taking out the other drones, and the other thing is that Sung had been told that if the Europa mission doesn't succeed, then he ends up going on to save humanity from some ecological disaster, and we know that ends up becoming the Confederation, because his statues we see at the beginning of the season, when they get blown back into are blown into this alternate timeline type of deal. So he's told basically if he stops the Europa mission, his legacy goes on. He becomes this hero. He's the godfather to the Earth. Yada yada yada. Well, then basically one last piece of information that the Borg Queen, that Borgatti gives to the party, is that there has to be, in order to succeed, there has to be two Renees, one who lives and one who dies. And of course, what is this cryptic meaning? What are we going to figure out what to do? And then suddenly Talon gets the light bulb above her head. I know what I have to do. So she goes off and she reveals herself to Renee Picard, tells her, hey, I've been your guardian angel. I've been looking over you since you were a child. Do you remember the sailboat I gave you? When your little one capsized off the coast of Martha's Vineyard, yada, yada, yada. And of course, we were like, she's like, you have to trust me right now. And next thing you know, what looks to be Renee comes running out, runs into Sung, says there's a crazy woman in there. And he's like, oh, come on, I'll help you. And then she's like, oh, I'm sick. What's going on? And he's like, oh, peels this thing off his hand. Oh, it's a neurotoxin. Sorry, you're dead, blah, blah, blah. She stumbles off and finds Picard. And just before she dies, she reveals that she is actually Talon in disguise, and that the real Renee Picard got on the rocket took off, and the Europa mission was a success, which means that sealed Sung's fate. We roll on. So we've got this resolution. Seven is alive. The La Sirena has been taken by Borgatti. Everybody's kind of trapped in 21st century France. We kick up with season 2, episode 10, which is the finale. And we find out, like, they're like, hey, well, I guess let's gather up all the stuff that could cause a problem, and let's just go off and live somewhere, and we'll live out the rest of our days since we're stuck in 2024. And then Q's like, oh, maybe you're not stuck, eh? Maybe I got a little bit enough of juice to get you home, bro. And
this is where we have the final showdown between Picard and Q.
Yeah, the final showdown.
Q's waiting in a room with a chair just for Picard to sit next to him.
Yep. And they have like the deepest conversation that we've ever seen these two have. And actually, as far as I'm concerned, best Q moment ever.
Absolutely.
Because you find out this whole thing was about Picard's redemption from the guilt that he felt from his mother's death.
And you find out why Q has been picking on Picard for all these decades.
Yep. And that line, every god has a favorite, and you're one of my favorites. Yeah. So we find out that, basically Q had a hard-on for Picard. But it was very, hang on. Okay. Sorry, somebody just messaged me. I thought it was important, but it wasn't.
Just the booty
Oh,
call.
that's right. Hey, you up? Well, I guess. It's almost my bedtime, though, but I can still be up. Hey-o! Oh, and so yeah, very tender, very poignant. We know that basically Q is done. He has got nothing left, and basically they're all talking about what they're gonna do, and in the end, Q is like, "Look, I got just enough energy to send y'all home, and after that, I'm out skis." And you at this point, I think somebody started chopping onions in the room or something, because it just really I got kind of the waterworks kind of going, and I'm like, what's going on here? What's going on? But again, it's just wonderful. You just have this very poignant moment between these two characters who have been at each other for 30 years. Yeah. And you're like, damn, dude, just damn. You're like, dude, Q, John Delancey's always been he always rocked the role. There is nobody who could have played Q better than John Delancey. That dude just owned that role.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I want to go back and watch the first episode of TNG now, just because now I'll see him in a different light. Knowing that this was all just because he liked Picard.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, that is all right. That's deep. So he basically says, I'm going to use the last of my energy, and bam, they go right back to where episode 1 kind of ended up, just before the fleet blew up and Picard blew up the Stargazer, because they thought the Borg was assimilating the fleet,
the ship.
So he realizes that when the Borg Queen or Borgatti was playing La Vie en Rose, that she knew it was a song from his childhood that relaxed him or calmed him down. And so he decides, okay, hold up, everybody just stop, hold your fire, do what you gotta do. She reveals herself. It is Borgatti, and they explain that there is like a galaxy-wide event, something that's going to blow away several sectors in one go, some interstellar event that has happened. And the Borg are like, we don't have the means to fight it off. However, if we work together, we can do this. We can do this harmonized shield thing. And they end up doing, they build this basically giant defense shield in space where they stop this massive destructive force from blowing away several sectors at once, and in the end, opening up a new stable transwarp conduit.
It was a wormhole blowing its load into the sector.
like it was so intense that Deep Space Nine moved out there. We find,
and she's like, I want to be in the Federation.
Yeah, the Borg apply for, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Provisional membership in the Federation, which is weird because the Borg have always been the quintessential bad guy of middle-aged Trek, and now they're like, let's be friends. Well, the other thing is, like, when they're making this giant shield, they realize one of the ship's shields aren't harmonizing properly, and it's the Excelsior. So when they pull up the Excelsior telling them to fix their shit, of course Elnor is back, and he's like, oh, hey, I thought I was at the La Serena. That's the last I remember. Yeah, I'm sure, because you got a hole blown right through you. But Q had a little bit of energy left to basically hit the big reset button for Elnor, and he's back. So it's like, yay, Elnor's back. Yay, cool. Rafi doesn't have to be all angry and emo. See, I did a portmanteau, angro.
Angro.
But yeah, so we kind of get the whole thing. Now, prior to them getting snapped back, we learned that Rios has decided that he's going to stay back in the 21st century, which, shock horror, we knew that was going to happen.
And he lived out a happy life with him and his wife.
Yep, and Ricardo. And we find out that Rios dies in a bar fight in Morocco over medical supplies. I'm like, that doesn't sound like him at all. Him dying in a bar fight, sure, but over medical supplies? I mean, dude, I think I would probably be more likely to believe that he died in a bar fight in Morocco over like some nice, I guess North African food, or maybe even some tacos, but medical supplies?
Or a box of Cuban cigars.
Oh yeah, man, don't mess with his cigars. Dude was like raging hard for those things. He's like, he's like,
That's one thing I didn't get about the whole thing. Like, people didn't smoke in TNG or anything like that. Like, he's just walking around with a cigar.
Well, the funny thing is that I know it's not canon, but I think it is in The Lost Years, the novel The Lost Years, which is basically a story that takes place in between the end of the 5-year mission of the Enterprise and its new mission in the motion picture. And this whole thing is that Dr. McCoy goes with Spock to Vulcan just to, I guess, get away for a little bit, but he finds Vulcan is inhospitable, at least to him. So he hangs out in the shuttlecraft where it's got, obviously environmental controls and basically a fairly endless supply of creature comforts. And one of those, oddly enough, for him was cigarettes. and he's like, and they explain that nicotine based tobacco products like that were banned in the Federation. So I was like, I mean, again, I know it's not canon, so you can do with it as you please, but it was kind of a nice little, oh, okay, now we understand that, you know. Just like how Zephram Cochrane finally addresses the issue of nobody ever going to the bathroom. Yeah. I remember in First Contact, he's like, I go take a leak, and Geordi's like, leak? I'm not detecting any leaks.
I'm not detecting any leaks.
Yeah. He's like, don't you guys ever pee? Oh, leak. I get it. It's pretty funny. Yeah, come here. Yeah, and then Zephram Cochrane turns around and pees on him.
That's what O'Brien is doing all day long. He's energizing everyone's bladder out into space.
It's like that episode of Family Guy when they go to the road to the multiverse, and they go into the the possible future or possible universe where there was no religious there was basically no religious was it the Dark Ages? There's no Dark Ages or something like that. So the Renaissance happened like 1,000 years ahead of when it really did, and of course, so modern day is much further along, technological speaking. And Brian's like, "Hey, is there a bathroom around here? So what do you gotta do? Pee or poop? Poop. One poop removal, please." Yeah, they just cut to O'Brien. Woo. So yeah, I mean, we are down. Like Q's gone, Eleanor's back.
Rios is dead.
Rios is dead because he stayed in the past.
Soon.
And then Sung. So Sung is basically, he is at his mansion, whatever, and he sees all of his computer files start to delete, and he realizes that because she talks to him, he realizes it's Corey, and she's, I guess, in a library with her with her Google glasses.
With their Oculus.
Yeah, with her Oculus sitting there wiping out all of his files so that he can't do this again. And in the end, you know, he's like, well, guess I'll look in my file cabinet. He opens a drawer and pulls out this old manila folder, and on it says Project Con, copyright 1996. I'm like, all right, I'll give you that one. That's good. Yeah, that was a nice little nod. Okay, yeah, that's good. You can go with that one. And that's the end of him, you know, for right now. I mean, I don't know I don't know how Brent Spiner is going to end up showing back up in Picard season 3, because they're going to have this massive reunion minus Will Wheaton.
It kind of makes sense why all the Soongs look alike. He probably just kept cloning himself, like we talked about. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
All down through the future. Into the future.
Yep. That's it'd be funny to find out what happened to him in the period between World War III starting and like First Contact and all that stuff. You know, what happened to the Soongs then? And yeah, I mean, it's
and then the last thing was Cora. See her walking.
Yeah, so Cora, she's kind of like, she gets a message on her laptop. You know, if you want to know more, come to this address in Los Angeles. And like, it would have been so funny if like the Terminator showed up, you know, come with me if you want to live downtown. I have a great apartment, you know. Like, but no. We get something much better, much better. So I'm sitting there, and I'm not shitting you. I'm just like, okay, where are we gonna go with this? She's standing there in the park, you know. Yeah. Some guy gonna show up and say, "I'm your secret admirer," and like, no, way better, super way better. Like, completely took me for a left field spin better. Wesley King Crusher shows up.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, it's Wesley. You know, like I'm screaming like one of the girls watching the Beatles, you know, and it's like, oh my God. You know, I'm like, oh my God, what are they doing? He's a traveler. And we find that's exactly what it is. He has basically been watching Corey. He is there to recruit her into the Travelers. But even better, a nice little tie-in in there. We find out that the supervisors, that Talon was a supervisor, and for those who are in the know, also might remember from the original series, a character by the name of Gary Seven, who was also a supervisor. And they basically watch time in various places to make sure it flows the way it has to. And what the hell? Oh, sorry.
Your shit's blowing up.
Yeah, my shit is blown up, and it's because my wife is out taking the dog for a walk. And so yeah, like we have this whole thing where like, yeah, you know, I'm a traveler, and this is what I do, and this is what we do, and
come join us.
And come join us. And he's like, okay, cool. And I was like, I was like totally crazy, and I'm like, I mean,
they threw him a bone.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is like, you know, like Will Wheaton as Wesley Crusher when he was 15, you know, he was so widely panned because they gave him the dumbest lines. And he even talks about it in Still Just a Geek, which, by the way, fantastic. Like, amazeballs. And, like, the first audiobook that I've ever listened to that was almost 24 hours long. It's like 23 hours and 51 minutes, okay? Amazingly long, but super cool, and he talks about all this stuff. So people basically hated on Wesley when he was a kid.
I never got the hate. I always enjoyed his character.
Well, and again, he does say, you know, a lot of it comes down to they gave him the stupid lines like, "We're Starfleet and we don't tell lies," and you know, stuff like that. It's like, dude, yeah, I get it. I totally get it. But now, like, I mean, he has really become a person who is very, very happy with his life. And he is just embraced Star Trek. He has embraced the character. He knows that was part of him, and he just rolls with it. And he does such a phenomenal job of bringing that character back to the screen. And I'm just like, the end of the episode hits, and I am just like, you know, my jaw is on the floor. And I'm just like, while the end credits are rolling, I'm just like, I feel like I've just been hit by lightning because I'm stunned. How did you feel when you saw him appear?
Yeah, no, I just felt happy. I was like, that's Wesley Crusher. Like, I was not expecting it. I had no idea. I didn't read any spoilers or anything. Like, I had no clue he was going to be in it. So it was a big shock and surprise. It was really cool.
The things they did wrong in season 1, they did not do in season 2. There are some minor criticisms along the way, but I'm excited to see where they roll with the last season and see how they give our beloved Picard a proper send off.
Yeah, me too.
So
I'm looking forward to it. They did a good job on the second season.
So, and again, you know, I'm just absolutely loved how things played out. I know I voiced concerns in previous episodes where thinking how they're going to do this, how they're going to wrap it up. Oh my goodness. They did it. They blew the rest of their budget, you know, getting this right. And that was great.
Yeah.
So, I guess again, we'll see what happens with season 3. And then of course, you know, we rolled, and we won't talk about Strange New Worlds tonight. But we, holy cow, man, we hit 49 minutes. We're rocking and rolling this episode.
We will talk about it next time.
Yeah.
And if you have not seen it, you need to see it.
Yes.
It is one of the best Star Trek shows so far. I mean, the first epised blew me away.
To put it into perspective.
Spoilers for next week.
Yeah.
It blew me away.
So we're and like this is a Monday night, which is our off night usually for us. However, because we didn't go for 2 weeks, I wanted to get caught up, and so we're like, all right, we'll do this one, and then on Thursday we'll do another episode this week. Then we'll go back to our normal Thursday rotation. But this Thursday we are going to hit on Strange New Worlds episode 1 and 2 together, and then we'll flip back over to our usual 1 episode recap per episode. But again, to put it in perspective, Patrick, who is one of the founding members of Red Shirt Geeks with me, he has he's a not anti Star Trek, but he is very much a Star Wars fanatic. You know, that's his thing. He has appreciation for Star Trek where it's good, but for the most part, he's not towing the company line on that one. But he said to me, I said to him on Sunday after we finished up with Old Men Gaming, we had been playing Star Trek Online and we were talking afterwards. And I said, dude, you got to check out Strange New Worlds. Just watch one episode. If you don't like it, I'll shut up about it and go from there. He's like, all right, I'll check it out. So he goes, logs in. He tells me, he comes back on Discord later that night and he goes, that is quite possibly the best episode of Star Trek I have seen in a very long time. That's how you do an episode of Star Trek. And then the next morning, when I popped up and said, hey, good morning, he responds back to me. He goes, yeah. He goes, and oddly enough, I'm still in that Trek headspace because of that show. So we may actually have a well and true convert if this continues to go down the road we see. So yeah, so be sure to come back and join us this Thursday at 9 o'clock Pacific time, where we are going to talk about the first 2 episodes of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And yeah, we will hit everything at once and we'll talk about stuff and we will spoil the crap out of it. So consider yourself warned. All right. I'm looking at you. Thanks again for all of those who have been watching, who have been following us on Instagram. I know that there's still more to do. Like we've still got more social media to set up. We're going to be setting up with Anchor FM so that we can aggregate the podcast, these episodes out to an audio version to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all that stuff like that. And yeah, so we will get out there more. But please, if you do like these, if you're watching this on Twitch, please follow us. If you're watching this on YouTube Live, please like and subscribe our channel. We appreciate it. If you just do the Facebook thing, we're on there as the Red Shirt Geeks. And also, we are on Instagram at Red Shirt Geeks and also at Treknicity. We very much would appreciate a follow. And just as of right now, and I know this is most people would laugh at me for it, but we're at 248 followers, and we have grown that in like the last month and a half. Okay, it went from 0 to like almost 250 in a month and a half, and that's all organic. It's just people just checking us out, liking what they see, and they're following us, and we do the same with them. So I'm very proud, very happy to have Brandon as my co-host for the show. It has, between the Starship Tempest podcast, which I hawk the hell out of, including, got my Starship Tempest mug. But between that and doing Treknicity with somebody who truly loves Star Trek, has absolutely relit the fire and has it burning hot for Star Trek. So again, thank you very much. We will see you next time here on Treknicity. I'm Lars.
I'm Brandon.
And as always, we say rock out with your Spock out. We'll see you next time.